Hello there. Good morning and welcome in to a Utes Game Day on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. I am your host, Porter Larsen, each and every game week here on the Utes, home of the Utes, rather, since 1951. That's right, 70 plus years as your home of Utah football, Utah basketball, and more. The Utes Game Day pregame show brought to you each and every week this season by our friends at Outlaw Distillery. A big thank you to them for sponsoring the pregame show and our tailgates up on campus each and every game this year. Amazing drinks, like their honey bourbon, the vodka, the spiced rum, and their coffee rum. They just came out with a new barrel-proof bourbon as well. So stop by and get a taste either at their location on site over at Big Willie's Sports Bar, another one of our fantastic partners on ESPN 700. Outlaw Distillery, a grain-to-glass product forged in the history of the American West, at outlawdistillery.com and at all state liquor stores. Now, we are live today from Young Automotive out in Riverdale. It is the Young Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram out in Riverdale, 1481 West Riverdale Road, for the year-end sales event. On all 2018 or newer car purchases financed with America First Credit Union, customers receive the following: $1,000 Amazon gift card, 90 days with no payments, and 5 years of maintenance. So the year-end sales event here at Young Automotive cannot be beat with some of the deals you'll get here and some of the extra add-ons on top of that. So looking forward to chatting with our friends here at Young Auto, getting some insight on some of the extra models and going from there. Boy, do we have a lot to get to. Yes, we do have a game today. It's Utah and Nebraska on New Year's Eve. The Utes are 10-2 facing off with the Big Ten Cornhuskers. And, well, that's not all that we have to talk about, as the news cycle here in Utah has been a wild one over the course of the last couple of weeks. Morgan Scalley. The era of Scalley begins here at the University of Utah, and it does so in earnest because Kyle Whittingham's gone. He's in Michigan already. As they play today as well, the head coach of the Wolverines, now Kyle Whittingham. We're going to get to all of that during the course of the show, how the succession went down, some scheme potential here in Las Vegas. But first, hey, how about a look back on the 2025 season so far?
Second half, whatever Kyle Whittingham said to the boys at halftime certainly took, because Utah came out on a mission, scoring on 4 consecutive drives, and they win this game tonight by a final score of 31-6 to a sold-out and beautiful Rice-Eccles Stadium on a huge Saturday for Big 12 football. It is the Big 12 opener between the 16th-ranked University of Utah Utes and the 17th-ranked Texas Tech Red Raiders. Handoff, Dickey, end zone, touchdown. That was easy for Texas Tech. They move 85 yards after a 73-yard third down and 10 play, and the Red Raiders strike early here in Salt Lake. Pressure off the edge, throwing toward the end zone, Aiken up, intercepted! Jackson Benny took it away from Coy Aiken. A big pick, the third of the year for Jackson Benny. What a play! They're going to go quick now for the 5-yard line. Handoff, Parker, straight ahead, end zone, touchdown! Sean Parker in from 5 yards out, and we've got a ball game with 10:22 to play. Handoff, Dickey stacked up after a short gain. Now he breaks through 15 to the outside 10, 5, touchdown, and that'll be the ball game.
Wow.
They had him stacked at the line, and he wouldn't stop running. That was a scataboo-like run right there, and Cameron Dickey just called ball game here for Texas Tech. Morgantown, West Virginia, and Milan Puskar Stadium for the first time all time. Utah and West Virginia square off in the regular season. 3rd and goal for the West Virginia 7. They motion Sean Parker out. Devin Dampier is going to throw, looking to his right, throwing to his right, end zone up, caught. Touchdown! Touchdown! Dallin Bentley went up, climbed the ladder, and came down with it for a Utah touchdown. They'll bring a man in motion. He's going to roll to his left and throw toward the end zone, caught, touchdown. That's Bryce Duke. And Bird Ficklen's got a touchdown pass, and Utah's got another touchdown to Bryce Duke. 60 minutes of football done here in Morgantown. Utah improves to 4-1 with a 48-14 win over the Mountaineers, and it's a great day to be a Ute here in northern West Virginia. They move the strength to the left-hand side. Devin's in the shotgun. Takes the snap, keeps it himself. Devin to the 5, to the 4, to the 3, 2, 1. Touchdown! Untouched into the north end zone. Goes Devin Dampier, and the Utes strike first on a rainy Saturday night in Salt Lake City. The ASU 23, they hand it. No, Devin keeps it himself. He's running 20. He's running 15. 10-5. Touchdown! Touchdown! Devin Dampier! Devin keeps it. Devin dancing, cutting to the inside. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. He's in! He's in! It's a hat trick for Dampier! His 3rd rushing touchdown tonight! Well, we began the night with a driving rainstorm, lightning, and, well, Mother Nature flexing her muscles, and then it was the Utah Utes flexing their muscles tonight with a 42-10 win right here at Rice-Eccles Stadium to move to 5-1 on the year and 2-1 in the Big 12. It's the Utes and the Cougars for the 103rd time all-time tonight. Hands it to that man in motion. Daniel Bray to the outside, won't get there. Excellent tackle in the open field by Maury Bamba. And BYU's defense makes the biggest play of the night so far, stopping Utah on 4th down. Play action again, throwing to the outside. That one's caught. That's a touchdown. Chase Roberts. It was an excellent throw and an excellent grab. He beat Scooby Davis for 6, and BYU strikes first here on a Saturday night. Looking to throw. Now scrambling to his right. Got a man wide open. In the end zone. Caught. Touchdown. Ryan Davis from 11 yards out. And Utah finds the end zone for the first time tonight. And they're a point after away from tying it up here in Provo. Vanderhaar will rugby it out. Kick it away. Carvalho is going to come up and take it and nearly fumble it. And he does. And BYU says they have it. BYU football. Going to hand that ball to Parker Kingston coming around the outside edge. Kingston's got the 10, he's got the 5, he's got the corner of the end zone, touchdown. And BYU's back in front here with 11:19 to play. Bachmeier can beat you with his legs as well. Utah playing off coverage now. And Bachmeier to throw. He's going to keep it himself. Bachmeier on his feet. 15, 10, 5. Pushing toward the end zone, and he's in. Touchdown. Bear Bachmeier. That'll do it. For a third straight time, and in back-to-back years, the BYU Cougars have beaten the University of Utah tonight by a final score of 24-21. A Rocky Mountain rival in town, the Colorado Buffaloes. First and 10 at the 37. Bird in the shotgun again. Bray comes in motion again. This time, Bird Ficklen's going to keep it. He's got it. 45-50, 45-40, 35-30 up the sideline. He goes. He's going to go. There he goes. Touchdown. Touchdown. Bird Ficklin. Bray motions out. Ficklin looking to throw. Down the sideline, wheel route 5, 4, 3, and out of bounds. No, into the end zone, touchdown! J.J. Buchanan, he walked the tightrope and stayed in bounds. A 22-yard touchdown from Bird Ficklin. At the Colorado 44, Isaac Wilson gets under center. Takes the snap, takes the knee, and that'll do it. As complete a victory in a conference game as Utah has had in a number of years. From start to finish, offense, defense, special teams, it all worked tonight for Utah as they take down Colorado by a final score of 53-7. And Devin's going to roll out to his right-hand side, throw down the right-hand side, complete. That's at the 10, that's at the 5, that's a touchdown! He's got his man! Brian Davis, 34 yards, and Utah strikes first on a Saturday night. Wildcat back here on third down and a yard. Devin Dampier comes in motion. Wayshawn takes it himself. He's got the 30. He's got the 25, 20, 15, 10, 5. It's a house call for Wayshawn Parker. If he wants to, from his own 25. Up the field he goes. Mana. 35, 40, into the open field, 45, 50. One man to beat, 40, 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown! Touchdown! It's a house call for Carvalho! A 75-yard punt return into the north end zone for the freshman from Hawaii. 10 seconds now, Cincinnati bends over, and they know that Utah was the better team tonight. As the clock hits zeros here at Rice-Eccles Stadium, Utah wins for the first ever meeting with the Cincinnati Bearcats by a final score of 45-14. And it is a great night to be a Ute here in Salt Lake City, Utah. In the backfield, now they're going to bring a man in motion across the formation. Bird's going to keep it. He's through a hole, 40, there he goes, 50, 45, 40, 35, 30, it's a foot race, and they're not going to get him. It's a touchdown for Bird Ficklin. What a run by Ficklin. 67 yards, he broke through the line, and nobody touched him for a Utah touchdown. Wayshawn Parker checks in. First down run straight ahead. Parker, second level, 45-50. He's in the open field. He's going to go 20, 10, 5. Touchdown, Wayshawn Parker. For the final home game of 2025 under sunny skies, it's Senior Day. I'm Bill Riley, welcoming you into Utah football today. For the first time all time, meeting the Kansas State Wildcats in the second-to-last regular season game with still everything on the line. And Utah's in real trouble now. 2-point effort now for K-State to try to put them up by 14. From the 3-yard line, Avery Johnson. Backpedals to pass toward the end zone, incomplete and intercepted. Utah's got it. They'll try to bring it out, and they will. Up the sideline, 20. This one might go. Here we go, 50, 45, 40, 35, 30. This could be big. Can he get there? 15, 10, 5, touchdown. Teo Johnson, it's 2 points the other way on the 2-point conversion. Dampened to pass. Good time, outside, throwing toward the end zone. Caught! Touchdown! Wow. Larry Simmons with an acrobatic move He beat Donovan McIntosh, and it's a Utah touchdown. Dampier brings Parker in motion. Devin keeps it into the end zone. Touchdown!
Wow.
Touchdown, Devin Dampier, and Utah leads it with 54 seconds to play. Utah in front, 50-47. Johnson to pass again. Utah bringing pressure. Johnson scrambling out to his left-hand side. Avery Johnson over the middle. It's intercepted! It's intercepted! It's intercepted! That's the ball game! That's the ball game! Lander Park came up with the game winner! And Utah's going to survive the Wildcats! Down double digits with less than 7 minutes to play. The University of Utah comes storming back, and they beat the Kansas State Wildcats tonight by a final score of 51-47. Welcome to Lawrence, Kansas at Booth Memorial Stadium for the final regular season game of 2025. It's the Utes and the Kansas Jayhawks, and we're so glad to be with you here. Play action pass again, going to the end zone again. Up, caught, touchdown! Larry Simmons beat his man to the pylon. Utah showing pressure. Here they come on Daniels. Intercepted! There they go up the sideline. 30, 40, 50, 40, 30. Scooby Davis into the open field and into the end zone. It's a house call. It's a pick six. It's a Utah touchdown. Two tights and two wides for Utah. Parker comes in motion.
Okay,
Devin, they're going to try and throw it. He's got a man open down the field. That's Larry Simmons caught. 10-5 touchdown. And that is the ball game. 48 yards. Dampier to Simmons, his second touchdown today. On the final day of the regular season, the University of Utah goes on the road and beats the Kansas Jayhawks by a final score of 31-21, and they improve to 10-2 on the season and 7-2 in Big 12 play.
The Utes finish 10-2 on the 2025 regular season, thanks to some tiebreakers. Of course, a loss to BYU, lost to Texas Tech. They are out of the Big 12 championship game and into the Las Vegas Bowl today against Nebraska. We'll get the preview of both Utah and the Cornhuskers as the show goes along. Coach Bill Bush, former coach at Utah, former coach at Nebraska. Kenneth Scott stops by the program. Zach Moss stops by the program. So we'll have a couple of former Utes and a coach to give us the lowdown on what went down over the last week or so here at Young Automotive. Jacob, the GM of Young Automotive, sits with me to let us know about the year-end sales event. So here's the deal, Jacob. $1,000 Amazon gift card, 90 days no payments, 5 years of maintenance. That's a deal that doesn't come along very often. Tell folks why they should come in today and take advantage of that.
You know, one of the biggest things is that with our year-end sales event that we do here is we want to make sure that these customers are getting their money's worth and they're not having to worry about a payment for 90 days, right? So you're not going to have a payment up until March, like get to kind of slide through everything, slide through the end of the year. And that's what's huge about this is that we want to, make sure that the customers have a good experience and then take care of their vehicle. Nobody wants to pay for a vehicle and then also have to pay for all the maintenance. So that's why we include that 5 years of maintenance.
Yeah, that's a huge one. It's on 2018 or newer car purchases. Now, you finance with America First. That's the partner here.
Yep.
And you get those incredible incentives. We are at 1481 West Riverdale Road, so up north a little bit, but I conveniently kind of forgot we're right between the airport and the Air Force Base. So
yeah.
Even though the game's in Vegas, we got a little flyover.
That's
going,
right. Every 20 minutes, you got a flyover.
I love it. So, yeah, we're going to be here with Jacob, the GM at Young Auto, throughout the afternoon, giving us some details on the deals. We'll get in some models and whatnot in a moment as well. But on the other side, how about the succession from Morgan Scalley, or from Kyle Whittingham to Morgan Scalley? The Scalley era begins in earnest here at the University of Utah today against Nebraska. We're going to get into that. We're going to try to explain it as best we can. It's a complicated process. There's a lot that goes into it, but we'll give you the lowdown on what went into that. And then, of course, Bill Bush, Kenneth Scott, Zach Moss will preview Utah and Nebraska. We'll chat with Jacob a little bit more throughout the show on a Utes Game Day, brought to you by Outlaw Distillery and our friends at Young Auto. Back with more on the other side. It is ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
This is Utah quarterback Devin Dampier, and you're listening to Utah football on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.
That's QB1, Devin Dampier, bringing us back in on the Utes Game Day pregame show. He will start for the University of Utah today. His future going forward, a topic of conversation as well. That's the reality of the new world of college football in the NIL space. Another new reality in the world of college football is that, well, Kyle Whittingham is the head coach at Michigan, a stalwart here at the University of Utah, 21 seasons as the head coach, 30 years on campus. That's right. Kyle took the job 2 months before I was born at the University of Utah, and now on to Michigan. So it looks a little weird. It looks a little unnatural. Maybe we'll get used to it as the time goes along, but we'll get into it this segment, knock it out of the way. It was, I will say, a little awkward how it went down, and I think it caught a lot of people off guard, and I just want to kind of dive into that a little bit, how the succession went down and how Kyle Whittingham ended up at Michigan, how Morgan Scalley era begins here at Utah. And a lot of folks, it seemed like a whirlwind this last couple of weeks, but to really get into it, this has been a process that started, frankly, years ago. Kyle Whittingham kind of set the stage in a way for himself, right? A lot of people have been trying to cast blame on how it all went down. We're not going to do that here, but we'll look at how each of the parties involved kind of wear a little bit of responsibility with how it kind of got a little awkward at the end. And first with Whit. That's a guy who, for the last 5 or 6 years, has intimated that he doesn't want to be a coaching lifer, right? He doesn't necessarily want to coach into his 70s and 80s like some guys do. Well, maybe that's the case, because as of now, Kyle is 67 years old, and he just signed a 5-year contract with the University of Michigan. So he's at least going to coach, if he coaches through that contract, until he's 72. And as of 4 or 5 years ago, that's something that he didn't necessarily want to do. So Kyle changed his mind, and he changed his mind during a process in which Utah was very much operating under the assumption that he was retiring. that Morgan Scalley was to take over. And the head coach in waiting title was put on Morgan. There was some drama in 2020 where that was taken off. And Kyle was the one who fought really hard to keep Morgan Scalley as the head coach in waiting. And that process, that title, I think added a little bit of tension. It added a little bit of pressure for Kyle to have a, let's say a expiration date, if you will. And when you start operating like that, boosters, recruits, all of these people will look at your program and look forward, right? And when you think that Morgan's going to be the guy and you operate under that assumption, and this is even Kyle through this year operated under that assumption. He allowed Morgan to run a lot of the coaches' meetings, allow Morgan to kind of be the head coach during the season in a lot of ways outside of, just wearing that headset on game days. Kyle was playing CEO and allowing Morgan to step in on a lot of the day-to-day stuff. And then, well, the finality of his career kind of hit him. And Kyle, he'll write a book maybe about this someday or give the memoir to journalists somewhere. Changed his mind. He flat out changed his mind. He realized he still had some juice. He realized he still had some left in the tank, and he wanted to continue coaching. And gave Utah an opportunity to do that here, do that in Salt Lake City. But Utah had, again, already kind of operated under the assumption that this was it for Kyle. And in a situation where they did that, Utah said no. Utah said no to Kyle Whittingham, right? That is the administration. That is also kind of the boosters. I know they're not officially involved, but the boosters had also, in a way. And when I say the boosters, I'm meaning a select few guys with very big checkbooks. They had also moved on to Morgan Scalley. And, there was a little bit of a tension there. I would say less over the last month than a lot of people think, and more so over the last year when Kyle is kind of playing this in and out game. Are we here or are we not? And it's funny because if you look at, the way that Kyle has operated for the last 20 or so years, there's this moniker that he uses, all in or in the way. And at a certain point, he was kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And it became a little bit of an issue up on the Hill, and they decided it was time to move on. And Morgan Scalley was ready for that transition as well. So everyone involved here, I won't cast blame, but does wear a little bit of responsibility. Where it gets interesting is now, Kyle not done, he takes the Michigan job. That's not just a, go coach somewhere else. It's the Michigan job with more resources, more money, more backing than he's ever had, and more resources, more money than just about any program in the country. Where that gets iffy and where that gets a little scary for Utah folks is that he is going to take some coaches, going to take some players, both from Utah and from BYU, to fill out his staff in Ann Arbor. And if you're Mark Harlan, if you're Taylor Randall, to make that choice, man, it takes a lot of confidence in one Morgan Scalley going forward, because just maybe picture this. Kyle Whittingham goes and has a lot of success at Michigan. Maybe things don't get off to the fastest start here in Salt Lake City. The locals will be restless in a lot of ways. Now, there's going to be some patience with Morgan Scalley, but the fact that Kyle took not just any job but the Michigan job makes this a whole lot more interesting, and I think it adds a whole lot of pressure on Morgan Scalley, on Mark Harlan, and on Taylor Randall, and on the people who made this decision. I'm not saying it's the wrong decision. I'm just saying it's a decision I could not have made. If Kyle Whittingham came to me and said, I want 5 more years, he gets it. But I'm not the athletic director at the University of Utah. They made that choice, and they move on. And now we just have to sit back and see how it plays out. The Kyle Whittingham era at Michigan, the Morgan Scalley era at Utah, both will be viewed now, at least here in Salt Lake City, through a scope where we're comparing them a little bit. So it's going to be fun. And listen, I am confident in Morgan Scalley. I think he's going to be a really good football coach, and he is a Utah guy through and through. So, he's not going to be a coach that is here for a stepping stone. He's here for the long haul, and for that, Utah fans should and are, I think, rightfully excited. So we'll get into a little bit of that as we go with Coach Bill Busch and some other guests. But just wanted to give you a little insight into kind of how that transition took place and go forward now. Here's what I ask. Mark Harlan, if you're listening, get the game scheduled. Michigan, Utah, non-conference, home and home, whatever it looks like, get it scheduled. That would be a lot of fun. And if it happens in the next few years while Kyle is in Ann Arbor, man, the storylines would be awesome. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to get back on the other side with Coach Bill Busch. He spent time here at Utah with Urban, with Kyle, with Alex Smith, with Morgan Scalley. In fact, he was part of getting Morgan Scalley to play on the defensive side of the football when Morgan came in as a really top-flight running back out of Highland. So we'll talk to Coach Bill Busch. Kenneth Scott joins us, the former Ute, and Zach Moss, the all-time leader in rushing yards at the University of Utah, all still to come on the Utes Game Day pregame show. James Peterson back behind the glass in the studio. Our friend Tara here on site with us, making sure we stay on air. Appreciate you guys for listening each and every week. This segment brought to you by our friends at Red Bull. Stop by any Smiths here in Utah. Grab yourself a Red Bull. I got one for the morning show here today. Red Bull gives you wings. Back on the other side with more Utes Game Day. Porter Larsen on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
Hey y'all, this is O-Block member Spencer Fano, and you're listening to Utah Football on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
Mr. Fano bringing us back in on the Utes Game Day pregame show. Of course, Utah will be without the Fano brothers. They'll be without one Caleb Lomu today as they face off with Nebraska in the Las Vegas Bowl. Of course, a bowl game Utah is more than familiar with, and I believe a bowl game that our next guest has had some experience in as well. Bill Busch, Coach Bill Busch, a friend of the program, a friend of the station. How are you, my friend?
Doing great. Thanks for being on. It has been a Utah-Nebraska feast the last couple of days, being on different shows back and forth with everybody, and it's been a lot of fun. Where are you located at right now? Are you on site?
I am way out at Young Automotive. We're slinging cars today on the radio program, and we'll of course send it over to Bill and Scott and Sly in Las Vegas for the game. But yeah, we're in Riverdale selling some cars at the year-end sales event. Again, I'll mention it: $1,000 Amazon gift card, 90 days no payments, and 5 years of maintenance if you take advantage of the Young Automotive year-end sales event on a 2018 or newer car purchased, financed through American First Credit Union. But Bill, Las Vegas Bowl, your experiences, your thoughts, and your I guess quick projections with Utah and Nebraska here.
Well, a couple things. One, like I said, I believe we were in the first. I mean, Utah's played in this game so many times. I believe the first one they played in may have been when I was there. It's when we beat USC in the old stadium on Christmas Day. And that was a fun game and an incredible memory for me. Since that time, I know that Utah's played in this bowl game numerous times. It's made a move, but yeah, it was awesome when we played it back then, and I know it's great now. And I've been watching the festivities from afar, and it looks like they do a great job with with both teams and activities, and it's a fun place for the fan bases from both schools to go visit.
Yeah, they didn't send me to Las Vegas for New Year's Eve. In fact, that's a terrible idea. Just to play it safe, the station actually sent me north. So good call there. Good call there. You don't want me in Vegas on New Year's Eve. So Bill Bush, let's get into it. Kyle Whittingham takes the job at Michigan. The Morgan Scalley era begins in earnest. You're a guy who has worked with both of those guys. You coached Morgan a little bit. First off, the Whit in Michigan stuff. He's been announced as the coach. He's done his press conference. We've seen him in the maize in yellow. But give me an idea of what that looks like to you, a guy who knows Kyle Whittingham for 30 years now as nothing but a Utah man.
Yeah, it is odd to see right off the bat. When you see it at first time, it's like, oh, wow, that's a different look. And I saw a photo of him at practice in Michigan gear, so it's odd to see that when you're just so used to seeing, him in some form of red or black and all the colors that he's worn there at Utah. But at the same time, like I said, just an incredible hire. Everyone ranks this as one of the best hires, and I don't know how you could get a better hire for the situation of everything that was going on at Michigan, and obviously not being on the inside there, not knowing, but what they were looking for in their leadership. They hit a home run with Kyle. And so I'm very excited for him. I know when I talked to Kyle right after that, and it wasn't great detail about it, but just the simple fact of that when he was announced that he was stepping down, it also didn't sound through our phone conversation that the door was completely closed to never coaching again. It didn't sound like he was trying to get this game today in Vegas and then leave to go on a whirlwind vacation around the world or something. It sounded like football was still on his mind, so I'm glad that worked out for him.
And you mentioned the game today. The plan really was for Kyle to coach this and hand it over to Morgan and kind of do the Urban to Kyle thing today. But when you get a job as big as Michigan, it's hard to keep the lid on that. It's hard to keep that kind of thing quiet. So ultimately they weren't able to do it. Kyle heads down to Vegas with the team, says his goodbyes, and now he is in Orlando with Michigan, who, they play today as well. So we'll keep a little side eye on that as it goes along. Over to Morgan Scalley, though. Bill, it's a guy that you coached. You were part of the recruiting process, and you're part of even the process of getting him to play on the defensive side of the football here at Utah. As we know, he was a star here at Highland High School in Utah, and played both sides of the ball, was electric with the ball in his hands, but became a really good defensive back. Give me a little insight into the player Morgan Scalley, and we'll transition into what the coach Morgan Scalley looks like here momentarily.
Yeah. And there's a lot of there's a lot of a direct correlation between the two, because what Morgan was so gifted at when remember I took him over to Rice-Eccles Stadium in between two-a-day practices and worked him out, and he was playing running back at the time, And I remember upon returning that I said I felt he would be an all-conference safety because I already knew how tough he was. And then he had this ability to react, and in defense is such a reactionary position. And he had that skill set of tight bursts that he could do very well, and he was very tough and smart, but he could process it at an elite level. And the processing is something that people sometimes don't factor in, which means they can just, it's like a point guard in basketball. There's just moving parts everywhere, and they can sift it out, and that's what he could do. And so when he made that move over there, it was natural for him. And then just think what that move did. It just created a path for him coaching, kept him on the defensive side of the ball, allowed him to be a defensive coordinator, allowed him to be the coach in waiting, and now the current head coach. And none of that stuff happened. He earned it all. And it's like he earned his way on the defensive side of the ball in playing in college. He did the same thing professionally. So it just seems so seamless because it was already set up with the coach in waiting, even though this happened very quickly with Coach Whittingham on when he had to say goodbye and leave, but they knew who the next coach was. And today's a big day for Morgan Scalley. It won't be one of those, no one's looking at it like, no big deal, just a bowl game, see what happens, first game, there'll be some rough spots, whatever that could be. But it's a big day for him like that, and I know he wants to get those Utes to perform very well.
Well, yeah, you mentioned it there. It's a big day for Morgan Scalley, and the fact that it's a little different than what we were expecting. We were expecting Kyle Whittingham to coach this football game and kind of hand over the reins in the offseason. We'd have an introductory press conference, which we will still have on the 6th of January for Morgan Scalley. But now there's a little bit of a different view on this game here against Nebraska because it is the first as Morgan, the head coach. He's going to still be calling plays on the defensive side, at least for today. I'm not sure his plans going forward there, but, there's a little different scope that you look at this game now that Kyle is the Michigan head coach and Morgan is here. We're going to be playing a little comparison. Now, not a direct comparison. You can't do that with Michigan and Utah. That's just a reality of college football. But how does it change now that the dust has settled and Morgan's the head guy, while Kyle is still coaching? Pressure's got to be a little ramped up on not just Morgan, but on the decision makers here in Salt Lake City as well.
I believe there's a little bit to it, a little bit ramped up. There's definitely going to be a very close eye on it. Like I said, to see how they react. It just seems to me, again, that the team, from following Utah from afar, and obviously I've been around it a bunch. I've traveled out there and spent some time to watch them practice in the last year and do that. But I just think the team is probably pretty much at ease pretty quickly because it wasn't like, hey, Coach Witt's stepping down. Who's going to be the next head coach? That was already in place. They moved very quickly into that. And so I think a lot of things won't seem – kids respond very quickly. They're not as they're like, okay, what's next? And they can react very favorably, very fast. And so I see that Morgan will have those guys set and ready to play. And there's always this conversation in bowl games where someone, these guys are out and these guys have someone out. None of that matters. There's two things that matter in football. When the game's on TV and they're keeping score. So if the game's on TV and they're keeping score, the game matters. And you're going to be judged. On Tennessee, Illinois last night, I watched that game. There's a judgment. Well, there wasn't some players playing. No one cares. All they care about is that you don't get to go back and count it if you win, and if you lose, we had some guys out. No one cares. If it's on TV and they're keeping score, it goes in the record books and it matters.
Well, and while this was a whirlwind for a lot of the fans and a lot of folks around the program the last couple of weeks, it's been in the locker room something that guys are in the loop on, right? And Morgan has ran a lot of coaches meetings this year. They had been kind of already making that transitional, you call it the transition team, right? They were already kind of doing that during the course of the season, so not a whole lot will change going into this game against Nebraska. Bill, I want to ask you, Morgan Scalley, just as a leader, as a person, what traits do you see from him, all the way from when you were talking to him as a recruit? What traits of his do you think best suits him for being a head football coach now, the job he takes over here in Salt Lake?
some people just, like I said, you either have the ability to connect or you don't. It doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter that you can't, I'm from small town Nebraska, graduating class of 38, and I recruited, American Samoa. And so I had no connection there, but I was able to connect there just because it was just kind of a natural fit for me. Well, Morgan can connect with everyone. So he has that natural ability to connect, and that also, when you're able to connect, that means you're also a natural leader of men. So that's the number one thing. When it gets down to this, there is no magic defense. There is no magic blitz. There is no magic. It's like, how well can you connect with your team to be able to get your goals and your philosophies and how you want things done correctly and at the highest level every day, because that's the difference on teams. You see all the magic hires, and this is going to happen, and they know all these plays. None of that stuff matters. It matters if you can be a leader of men. And then the next thing is, if you want a smart, tough, dependable team, how do you obtain them? So it used to always be just recruiting. So now it's recruiting, and now there's also some NIL/rev share situation. So how do I build my roster, but how do I build it with the roster that fits Utah? And so sometimes you've seen some incredible errors on teams, and you've seen some incredible teams. How did they get put together? And it's because somebody had the correct vision of who fit at their spot at that school the best, and they were able to retain their guys the most, and that's where I think Morgan will shine.
Obviously, Morgan has spent his entire coaching career under Kyle Whittingham. There's a lot of parallels that you can draw. Where might there be some contrast? Where might Utah fans see a little bit of a difference, maybe schematically or just with the program's energy and feel? Where might there be some differences between a Morgan Scalley and a Kyle Whittingham?
Yeah, that'll be hard to tell a little bit, but the one thing is that Morgan will be himself, and like I said, there's a lot of more similarities than there are differences between the two, obviously. And so Morgan he'll pick and choose. There will probably be, usually what happens is there's a couple things as an assistant coach that you would see and be like, I wish we did this different on game day, or I wish we did this. Some little things that they'll change. Today will be, I would say, 99% the exact same. There will be nothing different in this pregame warm-up, last night's meal, today's getting to the stadium. Everything will be identical to what they've ever done. There'll be no different. But there might be a slight tweak to something maybe he wants different in spring ball, or something maybe offensively he wanted to see a little bit different, and how much does he get involved in that? And how much is, the difference is going to be for Morgan is how much time does he spend now? He spent his entire time running the defense, and a great head coach like Kyle spends a lot of time on the offense. He's seeing both sides, so he gets a chance to talk to him. So that will be a new piece for Morgan. So what the exact pieces will be, I don't know, but I'm sure that he will lead the team, or whatever goes on up in front of the team, he will be himself, and that's all that you really want.
Yeah, and I think you're right there. I think some contrast maybe might be seen in some of the defensive stuff. I think Morgan's a little more he tends to be a little more aggressive sometimes than Kyle Whittingham. I think there was a little bit of a push and pull sometimes on the staff there. So I wonder what that looks like in practice. It'll take some time. It'll take obviously more than just today against Nebraska to see a bunch of that because, well, frankly, I don't think Morgan has to be super aggressive against this Nebraska team. Let's zero in there. 7-5, 4-5 in the Big Ten. Give us a short scout on Nebraska. I know you're not on the ground there, but they are missing a few players, and right now Utah healthy favorites, 2-possession favorites against Nebraska going in, 14 points from the smart guys in Vegas.
This is a key coaching game, probably more so than ever. It's always players make it happen, and I agree with that, except for in this game, in all these bowl games, who gets their team to play? And it appears in this game that both teams are locked into playing. And I've seen some great bowl games. That USC-TCU game last night, both teams agreed to play. So did the Illinois game versus Tennessee. So today is about who gets their team to play. And everyone's going to say, well, we're short a couple guys, but who gets their guys ready to play? The big thing is going to be when you look at Nebraska had a very good running back that rushed the ball well. They didn't rush the ball well as a team, but they did rush it well with one back, and he's not there. And that was a big struggle for Utah this year. I think they were 113th in rush defense in the country. And so that matchup is kind of equal to out a little bit, how it plays out. But then Nebraska struggled with running at their rush defense, and so I still anticipate that the advantage for Utah probably is going to be in the running game and in the athletic quarterback run game. And I always use the term that what I think will probably be the hardest thing for Nebraska to deal with is when the coaching's over. And when the coaching's over is when your quarterback has the ability to make a play after the play broke down or something's changed on the field, and that's what Dampier can do so well. And so he can make plays when the coaching's over. And so that will stand out a lot. Now, Nebraska has an athletic quarterback, too, that played just okay the last couple of games, was banged up in the last game. I anticipate him being fully healthy. So I think you're going to see a lot of quarterback run game on both sides. And again, and also in scramble plays. And who can hold that down the best will be the difference in that. So I think it's going to be a great game. I think it'll be closer than a 2-touchdown game. I really do. I think it's going to be a field goal game, and I think it's going to go down right down to the wire. I just think that probably the more veteran quarterback for Utah probably gives them a little bit more of an advantage.
That is Coach Bill Busch. Of course, no one better to talk some Nebraska and Utah than a guy who's coached on both staffs and spent a bunch of time walking up and down the sidelines, both in Lincoln and in Salt Lake City. Coach, we appreciate you a bunch. We'll chat with you throughout the offseason. And, hey, maybe we'll see you in Salt Lake if you make a visit out soon.
That would be awesome. You guys are the best. Look forward to watching this game today. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach. We are live from Young Automotive in Riverdale. Of course, it is the year-end sales event. A Happy New Year to each of you. But, hey, if maybe you're looking to get into a new car, maybe that's your New Year's resolution or intention, whatever you want to call that, stop by Young Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram here in Riverdale. 1481 West Riverdale Road. On any 2018 or newer car purchase financed with America First Credit Union, customers receive a $1,000 Amazon gift card, 90 days no payments, and 5 years of maintenance from our friends at Young Automotive. Jacob, the GM, here to chat with us. All right, I'm a Chevy guy.
I won't hold it against you.
Don't hold it against me, but give me a reason. Give me a model. Give us a look at some of the cars you have on the lot right now. Good looking cars, and you got a whole bunch of options with the Dodge, the Jeep, the Chrysler, the Ram, all the Mopar stuff.
Absolutely. So one of the things I would say, being a Chevy guy, and you're like, what's the reason to make the move, is on the Gladiators or the Wranglers.
Okay.
We've got a massive selection on these. You're not taking a Trailblazer down to Moab to go over all the rocks. You're
right.
Taking a Gladiator or Wrangler. So if you're coming down here, we've got great deals going on. We've got $349 payments on our Grand Cherokees. We've got $449 payments on our Wranglers. We've got $449 payments on our Gladiators. And we have a huge selection here. We recently acquired this dealership. We've only been here for 70 days as Young Automotive Group, but we're excited to be back in this community and excited to show you kind of some of the stuff we have.
I was going to say, it's the year-end sales event.
Yeah.
But for this location, it's kind of I don't want to say grand opening. You've already done that, but you guys are still new here, still getting a foot in. And, man, as you mentioned, a lot of models, the Wranglers, what did you mention, the other one, the off-road?
The Gladiator.
The Gladiator.
Wrangler. Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's also the Dodge. It's the Ram version of the off-road stuff. Do you have any of that here today?
Yeah, so with the Ram, so Dodge and Ram, Dodge is now primarily like the sports cars, either the EV Electric Sport or now the 6-packs, and we do have some of those in stock. But the Ram, for the trucks, we've got the Power Wagons here. The Power Wagons are the off-road truck to be able to kind of do all the wheeling around and the big stuff. Comes with a winch from the factory.
Gotcha.
Really cool.
Yeah, there's a huge selection here at Young Automotive. You just got to come and walk the showroom, walk the lot. There's a bunch of options for you. And as I mentioned, 2018 or newer, the car purchase financed with America First. You get $1,000 back in an Amazon gift card, 90 days no payments, and 5 years of maintenance. As you guys know, 5 years of maintenance, that's going to add up to a deal that you really can't beat here at Young Automotive. We'll chat with Jacob a little bit more later on, get some more details on the year-end sales event. I'm back with more on the other side of a Utes Game Day. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
This is Utah linebacker Lander Barton, and you're listening to Utah football on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
The senior, Lander Barton, bringing us back in on a Utes Game Day pregame show. We're here with you for about another hour before we send it over to Bill Riley, Scott Mitchell, Stevenson Sylvester for the call of the game. They are live in Las Vegas for Utah and Nebraska in the SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl. On the line with us now in this segment, former Ute, great wide receiver in his time here in Salt Lake City. He is one Kenneth Gooby Scott. What's up, K. Scott?
Man, what's going on? Good morning. It is New Year's Eve. Man, let's go. That's all I can say.
Happy New Year's to you. Appreciate you joining us on the program as we close out 2025 and say hello to a new year. I got to ask, Gooby, first thing, how have you kind of consumed the last couple of weeks in the news cycle at the University of Utah as a guy who, you were coached by Kyle Whittingham.
Mm-hmm.
You know Morgan Scalley well, or on a team when he was a defensive coordinator as well. So give us a little insight on how you have consumed this news cycle. The head coach of Michigan, Kyle Whittingham, and now, as of today, the head coach at the University of Utah, Morgan Scalley.
Yeah, it's definitely a different scope of the environment, that's for sure. You know, it's weird kind of seeing Coach Witt in a different color than our crimson red, you know, and it's also different seeing him being head coach of not a Utah team. So definitely some things to get used to, but I'm super proud of him and excited for him and his new journey that he's going after, and wish him nothing but the best of luck. But I also know that Scalley is going to be a tremendous head coach in everything that he's going to do for the program and continue it on. So I'm super excited to see what he brings to the table. Everybody knows Coach Scalley. He's the most personable guy, so everybody's going to gravitate to that energy. He's a phenomenal recruiter of players and a builder of men, so I can only imagine how he's going to be able to recruit other coaches to come along to kind of keep that going and that essence. So I'm super excited and super proud of both of them, you know, for where they are at right now and where they're going to be headed to.
I'm sure a lot of people look at Morgan, obviously, as kind of an acolyte of Kyle, as a soldier of his. But where can you see maybe some contrast? Where can you see some maybe differences between Morgan and Kyle Whittingham? Morgan said himself that's going to be part of his biggest challenge is not being Kyle and not being a Ron McBride and not being a Urban Meyer, right? He's going to have to, imprint his own fingerprints onto the Utah football program. How do you see continuity, and how do you see maybe some changes up there?
Yeah, as far as changes goes, I can see defensively probably the same philosophy, methodology, everything kind of similar in some ways, right? But offensively, that's why I think things are going to differ. I think that with Coach Scalley, his philosophy is going to be a lot different than Coach Witt. I just feel that way. Coach Witt, as everybody knows, and he even said it in his recent press conference at Michigan, he's run identity first, right? He's run, and want to be physical and tough. And I think Scalley, he's going to add a different element to it. And I think that's going to be the contrast. So it's going to be like a gumbo pot of McBride, Witt, Urban, and creating into his own. I think he's going to, from an offensive philosophy, I can see an Urban Meyer-ish type feel of what he, was able to do at the Floridas and Ohio States and things of that nature, type of offense with those playmakers. And defensively, he's going to be stout, just like Coach Witt. So as far as contrast, I can see that piece. And it's going to be interesting as far as special teams as well. Because, Coach Witt, that's his baby. And I want to see how he's going to take that on as well, because, he's more of a defensive-headed guy. So those are going to be the two interesting spots, is mainly the offensive philosophy of what he's going to inherit within his culture, and then also what he's going to be like in special teams. He's going to be more aggressive. He's going to be passive. Like, how's that going to work too? So it's going to be interesting.
On the Whittingham side, you're a guy who, before you came to Utah, you had no, relation to this area. So you have a perspective where you can look at a national scale. You can look at Michigan, you can look at Utah, and give the read there. Give us an idea what that means, what the Michigan job means, and what you think Kyle Whittingham may be able to do in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, and this is no disrespect to us in Utah, but Michigan, just the name kind of sells itself a bit,
Right.
So he may not have to do as hard of recruiting as he would have been at Utah, right? And that's no disrespect to us. We're a phenomenal program, but the name has more legacy and history and backing on it. So as far as that piece, with Coach Whittingham being able to do the things that he did as far as on the recruiting scale, going out, being aggressive out in the field, he's still going to have that inheritance and have the resources of a name like Michigan, right? Even though we were undefeated against Michigan, we're going to whoop that tail. But, I feel like it's going to be not easier for him, but it's going to be smoother for him because he's going to have that hustle from trying to get folks to Utah, but also he's going to have that legacy and history and name behind Michigan to get kids want to go. So kids nowadays, that's what they're all about. They're all about that the name and the branding of certain things, and and so obviously they're going to look towards that name more than anything, and then obviously the money's going to follow it nowadays. But I think it's going to be cool for him. It's going to be smooth sailing for Coach Witt.
Yeah, we'll see how that all plays out. And now that he's taken another job, he's not an advisor here at Utah like we expected him to be. There'll be a little different scope in which we watch both of these programs. Are we going to be seeing you wearing Michigan gear anytime soon? What's the deal there?
If Coach Witt offered me a job, I'm there. No, I'm just playing. But no, I'm definitely. It's weird. It's ironic because within this year, I was watching Michigan games a lot, mainly because one of the players I used to coach before he got into high school, his name Andrew Marsh. He's a freshman All-American at Michigan, and I was coaching him when I was coaching football, and so I was always tuned into their games, watching him perform. So I was like already watching their games, and so now having Coach Witt there, I'm gonna watch it even more, and so. Definitely, I might get me something, but it'll be more so like supporting, Andrew Marsh and whatever he has going to support his brand. But definitely gonna continue watching him. But I'm still gonna be my youth is still everything for my youth, So that's for sure.
Wouldn't expect anything less. Of course, a Utah man he is. Kenneth Scott on the line, the former Utah wide receiver and a great on the hill. All right, what do you want to see today? Obviously, we're not going to get the whole Morgan Scalley experience in one game in Las Vegas. But when we're talking roster, we're talking maybe a Devin Dampier who Utah hopes to have back next year. We're looking at this team and wondering how many of these guys are still Utes in 2026. Right. How are you going to watch this game against Nebraska, and maybe what do you want to see from a few particular players?
Yeah, the main thing I want to see from our guys is just the fight. Something that they've always been doing this year. Just continue that fight, man. Don't let these distractions get to us. And I know that our team is going to be super pumped up. They're going to be super going for Coach Scalley. So I don't think that they'll come out like slow or anything. I think they're going to come out with super fast energy. Because they just as much as Coach Scalley wants to win this game, I think the players want to win this game for him. They've seen the things that's been going on, and they feel for Coach Scalley, and they love Coach Scalley. And they're hearing things in the media, too, so they want to leave a good impact. So what I can see from the game, man, just high intensity, man. These guys are going to – you could just feel it, man. These guys are going to go out there, put it all they got, and I'm excited to watch. I think offensively, I think there's going to be some – obviously, we've been averaging 40 points a game. But I think it's going to be more explosive this game. I don't know why I feel that way. I just feel like this game has an element of there's nothing to lose. Let's just go out there and be free. And I think it's going to be a lot of more explosive plays. Defense is going to be doing what he's doing, but I think we're going to be good.
Now, I know there was a wrinkle thrown in this year, but give us some insight into bowl prep under Utah. It's a team that historically is known as one of the better bowl performers in college football. A lot of that, frankly, tied to one Kyle Whittingham. But take us inside bowl prep when you got several weeks to prepare for one opponent, what it looks like behind the scenes when you're doing so in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, the bowl prep was I used to love it because it gives you like early on you just kind of it's not too intense early on because you're getting over the banged up part of the season. You're still trying to heal some injuries, nurse some injuries. So it's all about getting guys back in a way, but it's also about like having a little bit more fun too because this is your last rodeo with the guy. So it's kind of like emotional at some points. I know my last year when we played in the Vegas Bowl, I was teetering whether if I was going to be able to play or not because I injured my big toe during a game against Colorado. So emotionally, I was feeling it, and so you can feel it across the way. And it's one of those, it's one of those feelings that, man, for some, it's like, man, this may be my last time ever playing the game of football again, right? The last game. And so it has an element of like, man, I'm giving it all I got. And it's also like, this may be my best practice ever because it's like, it may be my last practice ever. So it has that element to it. And so practices, I think, are more, intentional, I would say, for the players because it's like, this is literally the last of the last. And so that's typically how bowl prep goes, man. It's intentional. It's heartfelt and reflecting as well during the whole time. You don't really have to juice anybody up because it's like everybody knows the weight of it, especially the seniors, the people that, maybe their last rodeo, and it's the last rodeo together. So, bowl prep is always a mixture of let's go out there intensity, and it's also like a mixture of emotions too.
Let's dive into Utah's offense. Jason Beck at the helm obviously has been a welcome sight for Utah, 40-plus points per game. They've been really productive on that side of the football, going up against a Nebraska team that, they've allowed enough points that you feel pretty confident that Utah can move the football. In the last several, they allowed 40 against Iowa, 37 against Penn State, and then throughout the rest of the season they were fairly good on defense. But when they face off with a team with a strong run game, it seems to benefit their opponent. Is that kind of what you expect? Now, not a surprise with Utah, but a heavy dose of the run.
Yeah, I want our guy Wade Sean to get 1,000 yards rushing, man. That's my personal goal. Even though I don't have no way of impacting that, that's like my personal goal. I want to see Wade Sean have a great game, get over that 1,000-yard marker like all of our great running backs do. So personally, I want to see that happen, and that's going to come with us running the ball. I know two of our O-line may or may not play, obviously because they're draft stock. But if they play, great. If they don't,
yeah, they're out.
It's okay. Yeah, they're out. So, I'm hoping the guys that are next up, let's go ahead and let's make a name for yourselves, man. And I know they're going to be firing all cylinders. I'm pretty sure that's something that's being said in the room. Like, hey, let's go out. Let's make sure, this guy gets what he deserves for the year. And so I think the run game is going to be intact. I think we're going to be pretty good to go. Coach Harding's a phenomenal freaking coach, so I know he's going to have them fired up and ready to go as well.
Yeah, you mentioned it's Caleb Lomu, it's Spencer Fano. Both of those guys are projected to be NFL draft picks in this next cycle and projected to be pretty high on the NFL draft board. So they are sitting it out, as is Logan Fano on the other side. So outside of that, the Utes are expecting a pretty full contingent of players going forward, and they'll welcome that sight. On the defensive side of the football, Kenneth, Utah they've been up and down this year, and they've kind of been uncharacteristic in the fact that they've allowed a lot against the run while being really strong against the pass. How have you seen that balance play out throughout the year, and where do you think maybe that I don't want to say let down, but because they were overall a pretty good defense, but the rushing stuff, man, they were bottom 25% of the country when it comes to stopping the run, and that's something you just never see from a Utah defense. Where did you see that little bit of a lapse come in 2025?
Man, that was super interesting and uncharacteristic for sure, because I'm like, one game, especially that Baylor game, you're like, man, they're having like 500,000 yards passing. And then the next week, Kansas State,
right,
they're having like a century run. I'm like, yo, what's going on? So it was weird to see that dichotomy, I guess, like of a great passing performance from the other team, and then the next week it's a great dominant running. So hopefully, all that is out of our system. I think the players on the defense end, they're like, man, I can't let that happen, especially this time of year. So I think that they're going to be okay. I think they're going to be okay. I'm pretty sure that all those kinks are worked out now. I know they're probably quite embarrassed by it, but I feel like they're going to be solid. People are probably healed up by now. I guess I wouldn't say the exhaustion of the long season, but that could play a part in it at times. Towards the end of the season, things can get muddy sometimes, right? But I think with being the last game, I think they're going to tie everything together. I'm pretty sure they're going to be really focused on details, trying to make sure they get all their keys and things of that nature. But not to put down, Nebraska or anything, but I feel like we're going to be able to handle them defensively. So their offense isn't going to make too many big plays.
And their offense is going to be a little short-handed. They, the one positive they've had in the run game is going to be absent today against Utah, so they're going to be having to search for a way to be effective against Utah's defense. I'm with you there. I don't think Nebraska scores a bunch of points today. It's going to be up to Utah's offense without a couple of their stalwart offensive linemen to kind of move the needle in that direction, and I have pretty high confidence in Utah doing so. 14-point favorites going into this one, Gooby. Do you feel like that's fair? Do you feel like maybe a bowl game is a little tighter, or do you think Utah is able to kind of blow the doors off?
Yeah, I mean, they don't have Mahomes at quarterback. No, I'm just playing. I know. That was a joke, but I think we can cover that for sure. 14. I would say even 17, honestly. But I think we can get there. I think it's going to be. If I had to predict, it'd be like 34-17 as a final score, or 37-20, something of that nature. But I think we're going to not run away with it, but I think it's going to be a game that we're going to be in control of for the most part, and going to walk away pretty happy at the end, holding up a trophy.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I do think that Utah is able to cover comfortably. We'll give our final score predictions on the show as we close out and hand it over to Bill, Scott, and Sly for the kickoff of the game down in Las Vegas. Gooby, we appreciate your time each and every time you join us, a friend of the program. And, hey, can we get you on site for a game next year?
Yeah, man. Heck yeah. Now that Scalley, I'm there. I've heard some they're going to do something for the alumni, so we going to see something. So I wasn't able – was I able to go to a game last year? Wasn't sure, but I know for sure this year in support of Scalley, got to make sure I get to a game, man. We got to show him love in person, so without a doubt.
Yeah, we'll get you on site. We'll get you here for the pregame show, and we'll look forward to seeing you. Appreciate your time as always, Kenneth.
Man, appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good one. Go Utes.
One of the best to ever do it at the wide receiver position here at Utah, Kenneth Scott. Always appreciate his time. Zach Moss still to come in the show. We'll give you our predictions for the game and more as we wrap things up. About 45 minutes to go before we hand it over to the fellas in Las Vegas, right here on the Utes Game Day pregame show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
This is Utah quarterback Devin Dampier, and you're listening to Utah football on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.
Welcome back. Utes Game Day on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. It is New Year's Eve. It is the Las Vegas Bowl. Utah and Nebraska going to battle about 1:30 Mountain Time here on ESPN 700. And, of course, we'll take you right up to 11:30. Well, Bill, Scott, and Sly will take over from Allegiant Stadium. But we are live at the Young Automotive Group new dealership out in Riverdale, 1481 West Riverdale Road. It is a Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, Jeep, all of the Mopar gear here at Young Auto. And it's the year-end sales event. 2018 or newer car purchase, financed with America First, and you receive $1,000 off on an Amazon gift card, 90 days of no payments, 5 years of maintenance. So those really start to add up, and it amounts to a great deal at the year-end sales event here at Young Auto. Jacob, the general manager, is here with us. Not a Utes fan, though.
Not a Utes
I had
fan.
to grill him a little bit earlier. Jay Hill.
I know it.
Possibility of him headed to Michigan. Obviously, BYU is a team that now in the NIL space is kind of making their own hay.
Yep.
And maybe could keep him. But how have you kind of consumed this news cycle of Kyle, a BYU guy, a Utah guy, now headed to Michigan, and the fallout that may come with it?
Yeah, I think it's for all of Utah, right? I'm going to cheer for Utah if they're facing somebody else that's not in the state, right?
I'm with
if they're
you
not
on that.
going. You get how that goes. And I think with all this that's going on with him, it's sad to see him go, and it's kind of like, man, did we miss the boat as Utes to keep him? But, I mean, we have to wish him the best of luck because he's done a lot for the program for years, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the reality, though, now is that he may take some guys with him, and then that'll leave both Utah and BYU, and, hey, maybe some other schools around the area as well with some holes to fill, and that'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Jake, we talked a little bit earlier, obviously, on all the models here. Yeah. We talked about the off-road stuff that a lot of our listeners, I'm sure, are interested in. How about the business side, right? If you maybe are a company that has a lot of vehicles, you're a plumbing company or something with a bunch of vans out on the road, you guys have some deals for fleets and businesses to come in and take advantage of as well.
Yeah, so for those big fleets and small business commercial that are waiting until the very last minute, we know you're out there because our phones are ringing off the hooks with you. Come on in, see us. We have tons of inventory that we can sell you, so you can still get that tax write-off for this year, write it off, talk to your accountant and make sure that that's what you need to do. But we're here to make a good deal for you, make it profitable for you, because we know that gives your business the opportunity to grow into this 2026 year.
Yeah, it's obviously a huge point for a company that operates on the road.
Yeah,
it's a huge expense if you don't do it right, and can make or break some companies in that way. So, the business side, come in and get your tax stuff taken care of. It's the last day to do it.
Last day. It's got to be dated today.
New year and the year-end sales event. 100 years, I just learned here at Young Automotive, and of course they have celebrating that a little bit last year, and now this year with a new dealership that we are sitting in right now. It's 1481 West Riverdale Road, Young Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, and Jeep here. Jacob, the GM, taking us through it. One more hit on the year-end sales event. $1,000 Amazon gift card, 90 days no payments, and 5 years of maintenance. Give folks an idea of how uncommon that kind of deal is.
We have a lot of sales with Young Automotive Group throughout the year, but this one's one of our favorites because it rings in the new year. You get a new car and everything like that. And I'd even say if you come mention that you heard this on the radio, come up here, I'll actually double that Amazon gift card.
Look
do
at that.
$2,000 just for you guys.
Look at that. If you're an ESPN 700 listener and you've been thinking about it, and hey, maybe during the course of the show you've been thinking about it a little more because of that deal, well, you just doubled it. $2,000 on the Amazon gift card, 90 days no payments, 5 years of maintenance if you visit Young Automotive Group year-end sales event happening now through Saturday, January 3rd. With the qualifying purchase, receive all of those things. And yeah, I did mention last day of the year, but you guys have the sale going on throughout the weekend, right?
Goes through Friday. But today, especially for businesses, small businesses, personal people who need to get a little bit of tax write-off, today's the day. It's got to be dated today.
That's Jacob, the GM. We'll have one more chat with him before we say goodbye for 2025. This is a Utes Game Day. I am Porter Larsen. James Peterson back behind the glass, and Zach Moss joining us next on the Utes Game Day pregame show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
Hey y'all, this is O-Block member Spencer Fano, and you're listening to Utah Football on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
Welcome back into the Utes Game Day pregame show. Porter Larsen here, taking you through it as we prepare for the Las Vegas Bowl. It's Utah, the number 15 team in the country, taking on Nebraska. Of course, a Big Ten opponent, 7-5 over the course of the season. Utah 10-2 in Big 12 play. This segment brought to you by our friends at Beer Bar. Start and end your game day experience at Beer Bar in Salt Lake City. It is right downtown. They got a bunch of TV screens for you, so any game that you want to see, they can make it happen for you. It is Beer Bar, where you can take tracks up to the game, avoid the parking, and have the best burger and brats in town. And over 120 beers, 50 of them on tap. It is Beer Bar in downtown Salt Lake City. We just chatted with Kenneth Scott, one of the best wide receivers to ever do it at the University of Utah. How about the best to ever run the rock at Utah? Zach Moss joins the program now. Zach, quite the week, huh?
Yeah, pretty interesting. How you been?
Yeah, it's been a wild one to follow, and the news cycle seems to just keep on turning. I've been well. Thank you for joining us on the pregame show and throughout the week. We always appreciate your time.
No problem.
Let's first off get your reaction. Kyle Whittingham, the head coach at the University of Michigan. That's a guy who, your whole career here was under the direction of one Kyle Whittingham. What's it like seeing him in the yellow and blue?
It's definitely strange because you never would have imagined someone who's had the tenure he's had at one school for so long, obviously, right, that he would move on. And coach somewhere else. Everybody's belief was always he's going to retire a Utah man, and, that was kind of going to be it. But, at the same time, it is exciting just to see him continue his career. Obviously, he had been hinting at retirement for a little bit, and obviously, things changed. He kept winning outside of the 2 years ago, the season when they had all these different quarterbacks. But it's hard to step down, I guess, when you win 10 games and stuff like that, and you still feel like you got a lot left in the tank. So it's a great opportunity. I mean, things lined up perfectly for him with an opportunity to coach at a school like that. You can't be anything but happy for him, and wish him success in that area.
Yeah, there's got to be some excitement from guys like you that played for him, just to see what his process might be able to do at a school like Michigan, right? Kyle is known for doing more with less, right? And I don't mean that as a slight to any of the players. It's just that he has historically had 3 2-star recruits, no star recruits, and turns them into NFL players. It wasn't until Zach, the Pac-12 era and later, where he started getting recruits like you and the Hallandale Trio, and started getting recruits like Jalen Johnson and the Fano brothers. It took some time for Utah to get to a point where those kind of recruits were coming in, and now he takes another step up where, man, he doesn't even really have to go out on the trail, and those guys are going to be wanting to be, in Ann Arbor. There's got to be some excitement from guys like you just to see what his process can do at a level like that, no?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be very interesting to see what he can do with the type of talent that a Michigan just garners each and every year, no matter what their record is. And, I mean, this year people kind of forget this is a team that won 9 games this year, right, with all the, stuff going on over there. They won 9 games this year. They beat Ohio State last year, right? So this team has a lot of talent. You have a guy in Underwood who, I don't know much about him, but from what I've seen just watching college football this year, it's been a lot of hype and talk about how talented he is and things like that. So hopefully Coach Witt can keep a guy like that because, everything starts from the quarterback. So if he can keep a guy like that, that's going to bring a lot of guys in to want to play for him, and his style, his mantra, things that he believes in, that's just going to even just help those guys sometimes. I think we have guys that are highly recruited. Coaches can kind of, not always coach them hard, and Coach Witt is a guy who doesn't care about that. And I watched his press conference, and he was like, "You're going to become us. We're not going to become you." And I just love that he's still with that mindset, obviously, which he's always been with. So I'm not as surprised that it's not going to change. But you're going to see something with Michigan that they're going to have a chance to compete and really be really good. And they've been good the last 2 years to some degree. Now you got a guy like that who's all about ball. All the outside stuff doesn't matter to him. And he's been able to now shift a little bit in how he sees NIL stuff and everything like that. And he's going to have the resources. And he's got to get the buy-in from, the players. And obviously, NIL, people, boosters, whatever, all that stuff that comes with that. So, like I said, it's going to be real exciting to see what he can do with the resources, which we talked about kind of the Utah outside of just, now grabbing that big deal that he just did. It was the resources and things of that nature and being more of a smaller type of a program, but Coach Witt has built it to where it's a powerhouse that people really do respect. And that's from, NFL ranks even to just the college world. So I'm excited to see what he can do.
And on the Morgan Scalley side, he takes over for Kyle Whittingham in earnest today. What contrast do you think? Obviously, Morgan is a guy that has spent his entire coaching career under Kyle Whittingham. How do you see Morgan maybe changing things, right? And now Utah football is going to be Utah football, and I think the identity is going to look similar. But what from Morgan that could maybe look a little bit different than what you've seen under Kyle Whittingham?
Yeah, it's going to look different. I think you get a new energy. You get a new voice, which, again, it's hard to say how different it's going to be because, again, Coach Witt still won 10 games last year, so it's not like his voice was getting stale in that locker room and things of that nature. He was still having buy-in, but with Coach Scalley, from just listening to the guys that I've listened to talk about him, guys who've been in his room, his safety room, guys who play on that side of the ball defensively. Even we had I do a podcast every other day or something like that with some guys, and we had Eric Weddle on. Eric spoke, probably the best I've heard anybody speak about the potential of Scalley. Even we had Coach Guy Holiday on as well, our old receiver coach up at the U. And these guys who spent a lot of time with him and just got to see who he really is. And, I think the program is going to be in good hands. How long it takes, we don't know, obviously. But, I think overall, you couldn't have picked a better guy. It's hard to bring a guy. I don't think you can bring a guy from, outside of Utah to come coach at this school. It's a certain type of a school that you have to be bred almost. It's a Utah bred type of school. And Coach Scalley is, he played there, his family, he grew up here, all those different things. He literally embodies the University of Utah. So I think from that standpoint of things, I'm really excited to see what he can do and the type of players he's going to bring in, and just how, they move forward in this new NIL world with all the different stuff as well. So, I'll be supporting. I'll be at every game and things like that. And, hopefully, his success starts a lot faster than some people who have to kind of transition a little bit into that position.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the immediate success is the hope, right? That's the hope when you turn over from a guy like Kyle Whittingham to Morgan Scalley, his direct successor, rather than going outside of the box and trying to bring in a new hire who has to kind of revamp to his standards. You think a lot of things are going to be the same. Like you said, I think there will be a little bit of a different energy, obviously a new voice in Morgan Scalley. But, he also mentioned that he wants to focus on not being Kyle Whittingham, not being Ron McBride or Urban Meyer. He has to imprint his own identity on the program as well. So I'm excited to see what that actually looks like in practice and what it looks like on the field. But yeah, like you said, there will be a lot of parallels. There will be a lot of things that don't look any different from Morgan Scalley, and that's part of the reason he is the guy, right? It's part of the reason Utah wants him there, because they want to keep winning. They want to keep the good parts going, and we'll see exactly what that looks like. All right, Zach, on the Utah side, the assumption is, and especially against this Nebraska team, that we're going to see a heavy dose of the run. You'll see a lot of Wayshawn Parker, a lot of Nakari Rogers. Give me an idea of what you want to see in that regard today against the Nebraska team that's just really, really struggled stopping the ground game.
Yeah, I expect to see dominance, the type of effort these guys put forward the last 4 or 5 games, whatever it was, to close out the year on the high note that they did, right? So I expect to see some of that. I think, obviously, with them not playing the game in a couple of weeks now, you're going to see a little bit of rust. But at the same time, I'm also looking for the excitement of them having a new head coach and how they're going to play for Coach Scalley in his first game. That nobody kind of thought was going to be his first game. So I want to see how that energy, what the message was going to be from Coach Scalley and the coaching staff, how these guys come out and execute, the energy they have, right? Are we going to see a lot of penalties and stuff like that? That all is going to go back into the locker room, and kind of you will tell, just the type of buy-in that these guys are going to have to Coach Scalley, because bowl games usually are, the kickoff to the next season. The guys that you're going to be counting on again, things like that, new guys stepping up and things of that nature. So, it's going to be, at the same time, you're kind of applying for a job with Coach Scalley too, because, obviously Coach Witt's not there anymore. So Coach Scalley has to find guys that he can trust, right? And just because Coach Witt trusted these guys in certain positions or whatever it may be, doesn't mean he's going to either. So I just want to see what type of energy, buy-in, execution, all those things that guys can control, right? What type of things they come out with in those degree for a guy like Coach Scalley in his first game, and get him a win, man. Don't come out, lackadaisical, not focused and things like that, and letting the city of Vegas kind of slow you down a little bit. So, Nebraska, like you said, has been struggling all year with the run. but by no means is that going to be a pushover type of a game, especially early. They're going to have to go out and really want it and go dominate because, Nebraska is coached pretty well themselves as well.
How is that affected when you're missing your two top tackles? Caleb Lomu, Spencer Fano, those two have been dominant throughout the course of this year. Of course, All-American status for Spencer. Give me an idea with your two best offensive linemen out of the game, how that affects a running back and how you think Utah is suited to fill those holes today.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be a drop-off to some degree, right? But like I said, this is guys auditioning for Coach Scalley. So
right.
your two dudes are filling in for the two guys that you had that are very, very outstanding all year, potential first-round draft picks in this upcoming draft, right? This is your chance now as the guy stepping in to try to solidify that role going into spring football, right? And when Coach Scalley is looking at this roster and filling in certain holes or whatever that may be, right, he can turn on that tape, right, and see these guys playing their asses off and doing what they're supposed to do. So, like I said, it's always an audition. I think that's the way most athletes should look at it is, you always audition no matter that coach has been there for 20 years or this coach is now in his first game. I think that's a great mindset to have, and that's what I'll be looking forward to seeing on TV here today and just seeing, and you can tell through the energy and effort that guys play with. So, as long as those guys are stepping in for those two dudes, as long as they do that, they'll be okay.
Utah 14-point favorites going into this one in Las Vegas. Zach, how comfortable do you feel with them covering that spread? I know, listen, when you haven't seen a team play in a month or so, when all of the news cycle hits that we saw over the last couple of weeks, it may be hard to prognosticate, but how do you feel about your confidence level going in as Utah two-possession favorites against the Cornhuskers?
Yeah, I like it. I think it's a real respectable spread for us. Obviously the way we run the ball, time of possession, and the way Nebraska struggled, all those things kind of still favor in front of us. So I like the spread. I think they can cover it without a problem just because of the way, especially if they get up early. I think you're going to see, Dan Pierre is going to be healthy. Everybody's going to feel a lot better, which is going to allow for, I think, a lot of execution and energy. And it all depends on how that first two drives go and kind of tell you how the game's going to go because, like I said, I don't think Nebraska's going to come out, especially early on, and lay down. I think the Utes are going to have to do their job to make sure that they do lay down so that way they can now go ahead and just be who they are and be dominant up front and things of that nature. And we have a lot of energy. I think I just watching, just their Instagram feeds of, the whole bowl prep stuff and things of that nature. It seems like the team still has a lot of energy for Coach Scalley. So I think, with that as well, it'll be pretty good for these guys in the spread.
That is Zach Moss. He thinks Utah takes care of Nebraska today. We'll get the predictions from myself and James back in the studio on the other side. Zemo, we appreciate your time as always, man, and we'll catch up shortly here in this offseason.
Yes, sir, my man. Appreciate you.
The best to ever do it at the University of Utah, at least at the running back position. You could make an argument beyond that as well. He is Zach Moss, of course, Cincinnati Bengal, Indianapolis Colt, Buffalo Bill for some time as well. One of friends of the program, and appreciate his time as always. Now joining the show, Jacob, the GM from Young Automotive Group. How's it going, my friend?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. We're wrapping things up here on the Utes Game Day pregame show. Let's get it all out there. Year-end sales event. Give the folks the lowdown on what they can expect if they come in. Yes, year-end, but also up until Friday here at Young Auto.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're doing a $1,000 Amazon gift card. Now, I did say on the last time we talked, I am doubling that. We can do $2,000 if you mention that you heard this on ESPN and you come up to our Young CJDR in Riverdale. You also get 90 days of no payments and 5 years of maintenance, which we've partnered with America First on both of those things. Huge selection here at Young CJDR of Riverdale. And just within the group, if you are looking for a vehicle to start off your new year fresh, this is the time to get it, and we're excited to be able to help you.
And America First, a good partner of the station as well. So we're doubling up with our clients here. Young Auto, come get the advantages there. $1,000 Amazon gift card is doubled if you come in and mention ESPN 700 in the Utes pregame show. 90 days of no payments. That gives you 3 months. Get your stuff in order. Get your savings up there, and then you can start making the payments on that vehicle. And then the one that really stands out to me is the 5 years of maintenance. Tell us about your service staff and the kind of quality you can get with that deal.
Yeah, you know what? When we had purchased this dealership, I heard that their maintenance team here was incredible. And I watched this dealership day in and day out. They do, incredible amounts of oil changes. They get you in and out in a timely manner. They're super great to work with. They want to make sure you're taken care of. They address any of your concerns. And it's exciting to see what this store's done on the service side, because we know that they want to take care of their customers.
And when you say 5 years of maintenance, that's not necessarily a warranty, a bumper-to-bumper thing. Like that's your oil changes, that's your fluids, that's your brakes, I assume. What is entailed in that 5 years?
So for the 5 years, it's going to be lube oil filters on that, along with one set of wiper blades, and then multi-point inspections, battery checks, along with fluid top-offs on all of your fluids to make sure that they're ready to go, one set of brake pads. So we're really excited about that.
Awesome. It is the year-end sales event here at Young Automotive Group's Young Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, and Jeep in Riverdale. It's 1481 West Riverdale Road. If you can't make it here on New Year's Eve, you can't make it because you're watching football today, come in before Friday and take advantage of that year-end sales event. Again, $1,000 Amazon gift card. If you mention us, they're going to double that to $2,000, 90 days of no payments, and 5 years maintenance when you finance with America First Credit Union. Jacob, thanks for taking us through it today. Appreciate you, and thanks for having us out here as well.
Hey, thanks for having me. We're glad you're here.
Absolutely. It is the Utes Game Day pregame show as Utah takes on Nebraska in the Las Vegas Bowl, a familiar destination for the University of Utah as they prep for kickoff. On the other side, our predictions and more. We'll hand it over to Bill, Scott, and Sly at Allegiant Stadium right after this on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
This is Utah linebacker Lander Barton, and you're listening to Utah Football on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.
Welcome back. Utes Game Day on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM, a New Year's Eve edition. As Utah takes on Nebraska in Las Vegas, it is the SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl at Allegiant Stadium. That kicks off about 2 hours from right now. Bill Riley, Scott Mitchell, Stevenson Sylvester will take over on the other side. Of course, still to come on the station this week, right after Utah and Nebraska, a little college football playoff action. Cotton Bowl, Ohio State and Miami go to battle. And then on Thursday, a new year, Orange Bowl at 10 a.m. It's Texas Tech and Oregon. At 2 p.m., it's the Rose Bowl, Indiana and Alabama. And then at 6 p.m., the Sugar Bowl, Georgia and Ole Miss, to get the college football playoff round out of the way. Of course, we'll be back on air Friday on recruit signing day, on transfer portal day, whatever you want to call it. There's a bunch of different options in today's world of college football as far as player movement, but that's a big one on Friday, and we'll be back on air both for the drive and the Sean O'Connell show, so tune in for that. And then on Saturday, Utah men's basketball takes on Arizona as conference play gets going, and Utah women's basketball takes on TCU for an all-day hoops on Saturday. And then tune in Sunday for NFL action on ESPN 700, your home for all of the biggest sports and events here in the market and nationally as well, your home of the college football playoffs.
And Porter, speaking of Utah women's basketball,
go for it.
They're going head-to-head with the Vegas Bowl, so we won't have it on here on the flagship station, ESPN 792.1 FM, but we will have it on our sibling station, 92.5 The Beat, and that's on the FM dial. So 92.5 FM if you want to tune in to Tyson Ewing, Miley, Rustan, and Utah women's basketball during the Vegas Bowl, which will be here on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.
That is right. A good luck shout-out to our friends over at Utah women's basketball, Gavin Peterson and co., trying to compete with Utah in the bowl game.
I believe that's ASU they got at home. That's right.
Correct.
The ASU,
correct.
It'll be their second Big 12 game. They got Big 12 play started beginning of last week. So this is looking to go 2-0.
And that voice you hear is James Peterson back behind the glass. For those who have been listening all year long, James is the one engineering things back behind the glass in the studio for all Utah football games. Of course, we thank him for keeping us on air. And now we'll get your read on this one, James. Nebraska and Utah go into battle at about 1:30 p.m. Give us the lowdown. Utah's 14-point favorites going into this one against a Nebraska team that, they've struggled against the run. They are without their star quarterback, without their star running back. It feels, James, like a game that Utah should, considering the energy they have in the locker room and the new head coach. Feels like they should handle their business, but there's a lot going on in that locker room as well. How are you feeling about this one ahead of kickoff?
Yeah, I feel much better about Utah's chances than I do about Nebraska's, and I say it that way because both programs are oddly in similar situations. Now, only one is changing head coaches, and that's Utah with Morgan Scalley beginning his tenure today in the Vegas Bowl. Matt Rule is staying as the head coach at Nebraska for the foreseeable future, a 2-year contract extension earlier this year. But that doesn't mean they haven't had coaching changes, right, in the last month. So the position coaches and some of their other coaches have left the program. Matt Rule has made a lot of changes there. So they're experiencing some coaching upheaval. Utah is expected to experience some more, in addition to Kyle Whittingham leaving in the lower kind of position coach level and maybe coordinators. We'll see. So they're experiencing similar things there for different circumstances. I think Utah's circumstances are much more desirable than Nebraska's in that regard. But then also you have bowl opt-outs, you have injuries, so both teams are missing key players, but Utah has their quarterback. And that's obviously the most important thing, right? They actually have both their quarterbacks because We saw Bird Ficklin do great things this year, and I expect Jason Beck to utilize them both as we saw down the stretch. So I like Utah's chances a lot more than I like Nebraska's, even though they're going through similar situations from a personnel and a coaching staff standpoint. Give me Utah covering. I'm going big. I'm going bold here, Porter. 45-3. It's going to be a drubbing in the Vegas Bowl.
45-3. James has got the under hitting, but he's got Utah covering and shutting down Nebraska on the offensive side. I don't disagree with you about Utah handling their business. I think that they roll today. I think just the bowl setting and the young players that are going to get some run, I think Nebraska's going to put up a little bit more points, but I do have Utah covering. I've got it the Utes 42, Nebraska 21, and I think that's plenty over on the totals there as you look at the 50.5 points that they're getting according to our friends in Las Vegas. I think Utah handles their business, and I think that they should roll against a shorthanded Nebraska team. I do believe that a lot of that will be based on the run game. Expect a bunch of Wayshawn Parker, a bunch of Bird Ficklin, and we'll see how Devin Dampier and co can go. It is the Morgan Scalley era. Scalley against Matt Rule in the Las Vegas Bowl. It's Utah and Nebraska, and it comes your way next. I'll hand it over to Bill Riley, Scott Mitchell, and Stevenson Sylvester for the call of the game from Allegiant Stadium right here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM.